Hello, good evening, everyone, and thank you again for joining us on this event. This show 6 of 6. Can't believe we're here already. I feel as if September just started, but we are at our final show. This Pearl Warrior project was created to uplift women to feel better about themselves and also to spread the awareness of PCOS and the challenges that women face, the symptoms that we go through, and the severity of these symptoms. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. Unlike all the other shows, those are professionals who are trying to help us in terms of fight our PCOS symptoms, in terms of how we can go into combative mode, whether it be with regards to our physical fitness, regards to our mental health, regarding what we eat, even how we feel inside and how we dress. And then we also got the facts in terms of PCOS. Today we're going to actually have a chat about with Yashi Carrington, who's actually a PCOS warrior herself and someone who has taken her adversity and converted it into something positive as becoming a PCOS positive coach. Plus, the Zumba, which is another part, and we're going to hear all about that very soon. When I started my this program at the beginning of September in honor of PCOS Awareness Month, the global statistic back then, or what I heard was it was 1 in every 10 women who had PCOS. But after speaking to Dr. Joseph and also Nicholas Baudet, they share that from their practice in Trinidad and Tobago, it's more like 1 in every 3 women are now diagnosed with PCOS and battling with this. And some of them are doing pretty okay, but some of them are struggling. So tonight I want to have a conversation. I look forward to this conversation with Yashi, who, as I said, she has gone through and probably still continue to go through the challenges that PCOS brings on a regular. And she's going to share with us in terms of how her experiences and how we can like what she has done and probably we can learn a thing or two in terms of implementing in our life. So allow me to bring on Yashi. Hello.
Hi. Hi,
Hi,
Melissa. Hi,
Yashi.
everyone watching.
Hello. Thank you so much for taking the time out and coming to participate and sharing your story with us and also helping uplift somebody else on the other side of the screen who is probably not doing so well and battling in silence.
Oh, of course.
So yes, so I'm still looking forward to our conversation. I would have shared that you are a PCOS warrior. I don't know if you want to start the conversation in terms of your journey, in terms of okay, what you went through and how you overcome that. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be part of this. One thing I've learned throughout my journey is that when you start being more open about it, about your struggles, you actually get your power back in a way. So I'm always really happy to be part of anything that brings awareness to PCOS and the challenges. So yeah, so my journey started so long ago. I was diagnosed with PCOS when I was 18 years old. Um, what was happening at the time, I was what I guess people would consider underweight for my height. I was the lightest, well, I shouldn't say the lightest I've ever been, but I was underweight for my height at the time. Um, and I started having my period extremely regularly, 3 times a month, not very heavy, just very light, short periods, many times in 1 month. And after a few months, I decided to go to my general doctor to find out like what could be causing this. And I have to say that I'm very grateful to her for even considering that it could be polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is something that I had no idea what that was at the time, because I didn't look like somebody who had PCOS. And I say that, people tend to think that women who um, might be a little bit on the thicker side, or who might be struggling with their weight, have PCOS. But that wasn't the case for me at that time. So I would have been considered, I guess, a lean PCOS patient at that time, which is something that is a more regular term now. It's not something that I heard back then. And I actually don't remember the doctor that I went to. The first doctor that I went to, I guess, would have been a gynecologist. Maybe I blocked it out. I'm not sure. Um, but I would have been put on birth control and metformin at the time. Now that I look back and I know a little bit more, I realize that they look at three specific criteria called the Rotterdam criteria to really say if you could be somebody who has PCOS. And one would be, of course, irregular periods. And in my case, it was too irregular, but it also means that you could be missing a period or whatnot, or maybe have longer periods. Anything that's out of the norm. Excess androgens, and that show up in terms of having more male symptoms like male pattern
Yeah.
baldness or hair in the areas that a male usually has that you wouldn't really see a female have. And the third thing was, of course, having cysts on your ovaries, which actually it's funny now that is not always the case for everyone. But in any case, so I was diagnosed then, and I was put on blood control and metformin. And the thing I was told at the time was that I would have difficulty having children. Now I was 18 years old, um, so I just started university, and um, that was the furthest thing from my mind. So it didn't really bother me. That part of it didn't really bother me. But I didn't understand what PCOS was. I I didn't understand what the effects of going on birth control and metformin would do, and then I didn't understand like how it would affect me over the years. So I didn't really do much with that. I listened to the doctors. I went on it. It did regulate my period. Um, but then as time went on, I started putting on weight, and it was very difficult for me to get it off unless I went to really extreme measures,
Measure.
which made me very unhappy when I had to go that way. Um, but for many years, I really didn't do much. But when I look back, it really started taking a toll on me in so many ways. First of all, my body image, my self-image, because with the excess here, well, at the time I had it more here than here. It has since moved. um, just with when your clothes start not fitting right and you start to feel uncomfortable, when you just have these random bouts of fatigue, you'd be good high energy one at 1 minute, and then I would be struggling. um, and then it started affecting my relationship. So my boyfriend, now husband, I would have also gotten in a relationship with him at that same time at 18 years old. Um, and so children weren't on our mind at that point. But as our relationship grew, um, I started to think about it a lot more, because I was like, okay, well, we're proceeding to wanting to be married. We don't want to have children. This is going to be a struggle, because that was in my head. That was the story I was telling myself. It's like it's going to be a struggle. And uh, and then I started being very. I would try to push him away a lot. I would try to tell him things like, you only think I'm beautiful and sexy because you're my husband. Because my self image was just completely, you know,
One.
shook it. Yeah, at that point, because not only did PCOS do that, but of course I had very bad habits, in terms of building your self image and building your confidence and those things. And PCOS kind of just knocked those things straight out of the door. So, and I would have also had periods of anxiety and depression. And what I realize now too, that when I was in high school, there was a year or maybe a term where I just fell into a depression out of nowhere. I didn't understand where it came from. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to eat, and these things, which was very strange for me because I really loved school and I always wanted to go. And when I look back now, I realize it's like, okay, this could have been something related to my hormones, related to PCOS. I just didn't know at the time. So like now things are kind of, I was like, okay, these things make a little bit more sense now. Um, but honestly, Melissa, I really didn't do anything to say about 4 years ago,
Mm.
when I was, when I say didn't do anything, so I would have tried different things over this period. I would have gone on extreme diets, extreme regimens. I was sharing with Melissa before, there was a time that I had a no salt, no sugar diet for about a
Yes.
month, which was terrible. I had results in terms of weight loss, but I could not
There was no
sustain that.
happiness here. You were just eating.
Uh,
I said there was no happiness. You were just eating for eating's sake. Oh my gosh.
yeah, and I cannot live that way. Um, so I've done different things. I've done meal replacements. I've cut things out for a short time, but what would happen is that I would just either fall off the wagon, or I started to believe that I would always be set up for failure. Like I would never be able to handle this thing. I would never be able to feel confident about myself, etc., etc. Um, but I really wanted, like, even though I had those negative things in my head, I really wanted to find a way to be able to manage this better and manage it without birth control and metformin. But I'm not knocking those things. Those things have their place,
Yeah.
but you have to look at other options too. It cannot be this one size fits all, which I guess we'll talk more about after. But when I had my daughter in 2018, that was when things started kind of shifting for me, because first of all, PCOS, they find that PCOS, well, while studies still need to be done to really understand what causes this thing, there seems to be a genetic factor with an environmental influence. Um, and I really am not wishing that for her, but in the event that it's something genetic, there's a possibility that she could have it as well. And I wanted her to have the tools and have the support and resources that I didn't have. And in terms of not just in terms of managing any symptoms, but in terms of like your mental and emotional health, your mindsets when it comes to something like this, being diagnosed with something as difficult as this. And it really started off with me just trying to figure out, because I didn't even relate to PCOS yet. All I was trying to figure out is like, okay, Yash, you are in a place where you are not having the right thoughts that you should be having about yourself, about your body and these things, and you don't want your daughter to learn that from you. You want her to be confident. You want her to know that she's beautiful and be able to go out there like that. And it started with me trying to figure out, okay, how can I start doing that? And it's it's such a long story because I started with just blogging about my life in general. And then I realized that when I spoke about my diagnosis with PCOS, that was hitting, like, people were
Respond.
resonating with that a little bit more. Yeah. And then from there, things started changing completely. I started to pivot towards that specifically, started being more open about it, sharing my story. And I'll stop there for now because that just kind of snowballed into a whole bunch of other things.
Everything, everything else. What you shared is so similar in terms of my story with regards to, and I wouldn't share my entire story, but just a snippet of it with regards to when it was so similar. When I was diagnosed, I think I was in my early 20s, and I was told that you're not going to have children. And to be honest,
Mm,
that was definitely not on my mind. So I was like, okay, no problem, no problem at all. But the doctor prescribed metformin and pill, and I just took it, and I did what the doctor said. If I did
mm,
research what PCOS was, it was just for me to see what does this mean, and then I was like, what? And much emphasis wasn't placed, just like you, up until
yes.
mine wasn't even 4 years. I think up until a year or two ago, that's when I actually
Mm,
started to put things into perspective and try and like, what is this and what is going on, etc., etc.
right.
But it leaves me to think in so much, in so many ways, in terms of what advice can we give women who have now been diagnosed with PCOS, because some of them are underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed and they're not too sure what to do. So for
Mm,
those of them who actually have been diagnosed with PCOS or have been experiencing symptoms, what are some advice we can share so that they don't do the same thing that we did or make the same mistakes that we did?
mm. Yeah, that's a really good question, Melissa. And first of all, like what you said is so true in terms of like not doing a lot of research. But to your credit and to our credit, I guess I don't know if there was a lot of research at that point in
That is
time
true.
with regard to PCOS, but definitely if you suspect that you have PCOS, definitely go to your doctor. Um, as I mentioned before, there's three criteria that people look for. They usually say if you have two out of the three, there's a good chance that you have PCOS, but usually it's Dr. Cindy Duke had done I had done an interview with her last year, and she had mentioned that it's really a diagnosis of exclusion, which means like you kind of have to rule everything else out before you get to PCOS, which I don't think a lot of medical professionals did at the time we were diagnosed. It's just like, okay, PCOS, okay, but control metformin, that's what we've heard is would help this thing regulate because you just want a regular period and that's it.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that. So you need to kind of inform yourself, do the research. There are more studies out there now, um, to know that birth control and metformin, while it helps, it's not the only way. And It's also not a one size fits all for everybody because they call it a syndrome for a reason. As Melissa and I were sharing before, our symptoms are different, and it may be different to you. You might have milder symptoms, you might have worse symptoms. So therefore, just naturally, that means that we need to have different methods, different treatments, different supplements, whatever it is. So definitely get informed. Find a doctor that you feel like you could trust, who would be compassionate with you. I think I changed doctors twice from my general doctor when she suggested that it could be PCOS. I think I had a doctor, which I clearly blocked out because I don't even remember who that was. And then I went to another doctor, and then I finally settled on the one that I have now. Um, but find somebody who you're comfortable with, who would listen to you and not just tell you things. And I know we need to trust doctors because they're trained in this thing, but we also have to advocate for ourselves and be like, okay, I know you're saying this, but this is how I'm feeling when I do this or when I take this. Or I don't want to do this. Is there another option for me? You know, ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask the question. Because me, when I was 18 to maybe when I was about 20 years, maybe even later than that, I didn't have the confidence to do that. I would never question. I always am the student who like would do what the teacher says. I follow the rules of whatever the doctor told me. But that's what it was, right? But now I know that I need to ask the questions. If something doesn't sound right to me, oh, I need to ask something. I need to do more research. I need to get a second opinion. You know, so that's two things. And then the third thing I would say is find your tribe. I always, Marvin, I share this maybe on every platform, so but I'm sharing it here too. I was so embarrassed by this diagnosis and by the symptoms. I was so ashamed of it. I wouldn't tell anybody really. Nobody really knew about it. I think besides my husband, and I may have told my sister and my mom. I can't even remember. But when I started sharing more openly about it a few years ago, I had close friends, family who were also diagnosed and were suffering by themselves. They didn't know who to turn to. They felt alone. They didn't know where they could find resources. And it was amazing to me that when I started sharing more, like things were just, I was finding people who were expertise in natural remedies or how to deal with it with your mindset, doctors that were listening and who knew the research. And I was like, and these people became my tribe. And even as my sister has her series this month, it had different people with different expertise. And it's almost like you need to have like a PCOS self, like a team of people to deal with it because it has so many factors to it. You need somebody who understands nutrition when it comes to that. You need somebody who understands the medical side, the hormonal side, but then you also need people who understand the mindset, the mental and emotional health side. So was that three things? I think I said definitely get yourself informed, find a doctor um, that you feel comfortable with, so, and definitely ask your questions. And three, find your tribe, share about it. Don't be ashamed about it. Find it and find the people who can help support you.
I actually love that into the question number three because I too, um, I know about people who suffer in silence. And I do not think I have ever shared my story or told anybody that I had PCOS up until 2 years ago when I started to talk about it. I just used to, yeah, that's what I have, normal, normal. Um, and just like you, I recognize that there are a lot of people very close to me who they have it, and I'm like, wow, a lot of us are suffering in silence. As I said, some of us are doing far better than the others. So finding a tribe, I love that. I will add one thing to that though, and that is um, being aware of what is going on within your body. Because I can tell you, for me, back then, and even now, things happen and we look at it in isolation. We're like, okay, that's happening now, but we're not recognizing that there's probably a connection somewhere between what is happening in our bodies, our hormones and stuff, our imbalance that is triggering that. And we may go by a professional and they treat that one thing, but they just
Hmm.
cover it up for in a temporary state. They're not really actually treating what is the cause behind it. So I will say that in terms of be aware of what is going on and take note and definitely ask the questions. Change the doctors if you have to, because thankfully now there are more doctors who are open to actually having conversations and who are doing their research as opposed to just stereotyping it. You just said, and as the first time, you are right. Your general doctor was really good because you were slim, and she suggested that you may have PCOS. That was unheard
Yes.
of because back then it was only missed period, and if you were a little bit on the chunkier side, that is
Mm,
why they would probably say, okay, you probably have PCOS. But a slim person walking into the office, no,
true,
that was
true.
that
Like you
was
made me a little bit, you made me feel a little
yeah,
bit emotional when I think about it because I mean, I could have acted a lot sooner, but then I've had anything at that point in time. So I really do owe a lot to her for even considering that it could be that.
even considering that back then as well years ago. So I agree with you, and I want to add in terms of the self awareness, in terms of additional supplements. Because I know you said you were on this no sugar diet and all these things. How do you? It is so extreme, but how do you manage now and cope in terms of a diet though? Is it that you have a strict diet that you maintain, or are you just very precautious with what you eat?
That's, thanks for that question, Melissa. For me, because of all the things I tried, now I don't have a strict diet. I even don't even like the word diet that much anymore. Like I feel like nutrition is better, but I understand that that's the normal thing. But I don't really think that it's about cutting anything out completely. I think, and you shared something beautiful earlier in terms of understanding what's happening in your body. So really listen to what your body is telling you, because we really do have this intuitive thing. But sometimes we kind of block it up because we doubt those things, right? But our body really does tell us what it needs. So I don't have a strict diet now, but what I've found in my own journey is that I dairy does affect me, not necessarily in the PCOS symptoms itself, but in terms of like inflammation in general, which is something that
Okay.
is PCOS related. It can be a driver for your PCOS symptoms. So that helped me because as Melissa shared, treating one thing in isolation, it's about looking at the whole picture. And I realized that other things that have come up in my life could have been related to PCOS. In terms of like sinus things that just appeared out of nowhere, breaking out in hives for a year, different things. So I really had to stop and think. I was like, okay, what is causing this? What is making this affect my body? And so dairy, I have more or less not cut it out completely. Generally, I don't really do dairy. I've I've cut out sodas. Maybe on the off. I shouldn't say cut off because I'm making it sound like I don't have it at all. But for the most
You know,
part, I stay away as best as
yeah.
I can. Yeah, but I would have it occasionally, right? Because what I've learned is that one of my PCOS symptom drivers is insulin resistance, and I've seen it in other signs on my body in terms of skin tags, the weight around my middle, the darkening of the skin and the back of my neck and those things. So that's really what I've been trying to deal with. So not having a lot of too much sugar, having more complex carbs than simple carbs. And then I started adding things to my diet because I'll be honest with you, vegetables were not really my friend growing up. I really didn't. I didn't really care for vegetables that much. But as I got older, I realized that hey, you pair vegetables and it could be very, very, very tasty.
Yeah.
So I started adding more things, and I recently added avocado to my thing, which is a healthier fat, I believe, yes. Which is
Yes.
something that I see Trinis love avocado, and I'm like, I wish I like this thing, but I just don't. I'm on the avocado. All those things were gradual changes. So I realized that when I did anything extreme, I could not be consistent with it, and I would end up worse after it. So everything for me was gradually to the point is like when I thought about cutting out dairy at first, I was like, how am I going to do this? But after a while, it didn't bother me as much. And that's not to say that you have to cut out dairy. but you need to listen to how your body responds to certain foods. If you eat something and you feel like you're extra sluggish after, or something flares up, if acne is one of your symptoms, and it starts to flare up, then you need to start listening to that a little bit. So no in terms of a strict diet, but listening to your body um for what it needs. That was the question, right?
Yeah,
Like I was like,
that was the question. And in terms of the gradual changes, I support that because one is unsustainable at all. And I think food and everything that we do is meant to make us happier individuals. And if you're doing
yes,
something and you're not happy about it, there's no way you're going to sustain it. What's the point? What is the point? So I support the gradual change, and sometimes it's just alternatives to it. Sometimes it's
yes,
just swapping out something. Like how you said you drank the soda, but you don't drink it on a regular anymore, but you may still think it's okay, or whatever the case may be. But being conscious of it as a conscious eater is really, really good. I myself am not on a strict diet per se, but I was
mm,
sort of I think last year, sometime. I did this already. Yeah? I did this cut out meat totally, and but I did it over a 4 month period. But the longest I went, I think I did it last year, and I continued up until recently, about 2 months ago. And as much as it helped me with my weight loss journey,
mm-hmm,
I became protein deficient.
right,
So that's something that had an adverse reaction to my body. So now I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm actually trying to put on weight. Just do that. But, it's so it's like, okay, when I say weight, I mean like to build up muscle mass and these type of stuff. So what you eat, it must be beneficial and suitable to you and your symptom. And don't just follow any those fancy diets and stuff because sometimes it's not suitable to your body at all.
correct,
At all.
correct, so
At
true.
all. So yeah, I will encourage people to stay to do that. In terms of supplements and stuff, do you think like I drink? I'm watching the liver oil right now on the counter. On the counter, right? I drink cod liver oil and I take zinc. And what else do I take? My ordinary multivitamin. That is it. Actually, it's right here. Zinc, ordinary multivitamin, and my cod liver oil. Um,
Oh, that's
Pretty most, I kind of, pretty much I've been taking it on a frequent basis. But again, if you're not one of those persons who like to take all them tablets, you like
it's
actually
it's
put
hard.
yourself.
It's hard for me, but I do take inositol right now. But taking tablets in general is just really hard for me. So I have to really set my mind. It's like, okay, you need to take this.
Yeah, yeah. I would say sometimes I could go at it and I'm good for months, and then from the time I suffer for one day, it's like, okay, here we go again. This is hard to start back. So it's a journey, and don't beat up yourself at all for it. But
Mm,
try other ways to get the nutrients in your body. If you can't take
correct.
tablets, eat the food, but it's
Mm.
necessary. You said you take in what in a
Inositol,
yes in a
yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't want to butcher what it is because I think it is actually something that is natural to our body if it's not a protein or something like that. And they found that it does help with some PCOS symptoms. I take it specifically for insulin resistance. It's
mhm,
supposed to be like a natural form of metformin. You have to take it in a specific ratio though. There's the myo inositol and the D-chiroinositol, and it needs to be in a ratio of 4:1.
right.
And I found that has been helpful to me. Not immediately, but over time. And I only really started taking that this year, and I'm doing this in the tablet form, but there is brands that have them, I believe, in like a powder form, um,
Yes.
so that you can mix it in anything. I don't think it has a taste in that. So hopefully I'll gravitate to that. But I already bought the pills, so I
Tablet
have to
form. Did you get it in Trinidad or you needed to import it?
yes, this
It's
one I
in both.
got in Trinidad. this one I got in Trinidad from Ali's Herbal Apothecary. She's on Instagram. She has a few things. I think there are other things like spearmint tea, which people have said. I haven't tried this one myself, but persons have
Yeah,
said that it has helped with some symptoms, especially like the hirsutism and those things. So I got it from her, but I hadn't initially wanted to import it from a company called Avasitol. But I
I've
haven't
seen
done
that.
that as yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I actually thought they were the only providers of this. I didn't recognize there were other brands who were providing the in the,
yeah. Just do your research. That was one of the one that was more recommended, and they have the ratio that is they find is more effective. There's another brand that I'm forgetting. I think with Vita Chic or something. There's one other brand that somebody recommends, but
recommended.
the one I have is neither of those. And I'm so terrible. I can't remember the name of the brand, but I could always share it with you afterwards to share. But if you check out Ali's Herbal, you'd see the
I
bottle of it
definitely,
on her page.
I definitely will share it out. And I want to share something as regards that we're talking about paying attention to your symptoms and stuff. I remember when I was taking metformin. Well, metformin made me very nauseous. I was upset. I think I quit after. I was like, I cannot take this anymore because I felt like it after every meal, like if I was going to pass out. But
Right.
birth control I took for some years, and every day I had migraines, and I did not know at all it was related to the birth control. I thought I just had
Hmm.
migraines, and it was every day I had migraines.
Yeah.
Only after I stopped taking the birth control, years after, I found out there was a connection. I was like, oh, okay. So that's a clear
Yeah.
sign in terms of not treating your symptoms in isolation and paying attention. And hey, what is this? What is happening here? What is triggering? So that's a good sign of that. Um, yeah. I know you are a Zumba, a registered Zumba coach, instructor,
Yes, the
registered Zumba,
license.
licensed Zumba instructor. How did you get into Zumba in the first place? Was it PCOS that got you into Zumba?
Gosh. I wish I could say it what I would. I don't think specifically, but it has helped me so much in my journey. Like I am forever grateful. I would have discovered Zumba in 2013. There was a class very close to my house. On the way home, I would see people dancing there, working out, and I've always been partial. I always loved dancing. Growing up, I just never had. I was never brave enough to pursue it on a large scale. I would do one-off things in school or something. So when I saw this dance fitness thing, I really wanted to be part. But for a few maybe a few months, I would walk past the class and just kind of peer in. But I'd never made it in until I eventually made it in to find out, how to join the class and everything like that. And it changed my life for me. I wish I had discovered it before I got helped me like look a little bit more sure probably, but it was everything for me because I think at that point in time I probably thought I didn't like exercising of any kind really. But I realized that that was not true, and Zumba was the door that opened that because it not only helped me to move my body, it also helped me with my mindset because it was just like an hour of freedom. You just go and you're dancing, and nobody's really. It's not about being as coordinated as the instructor. It's about you coming there, you enjoying the music, enjoying the energy around you, um, and having that hour of mental and emotional like freedom, like just how they train you to be an instructor. It's you're leaving everything at the door, you're coming, you're having fun, you're being yourself, and I just love everything it stood for. And so in 2015, when one of the instructors approached me and told me that they were doing a training in Trinidad and Tobago to become instructors, and she asked me, I think you should do this. Like, I still was a little doubtful, but I wanted to, and I did. But it still took me 2 years after that to even have the courage to to teach a class.
Start the class.
Yeah, so you get any trend is like my self esteem was real, was real a struggle, a challenge there, right? Um, but since then it has really helped me. And it's there are other like Zumba, the company, the main program is the dance fitness program, but they've started offering other specialties. So if you don't necessarily like the dance fitness one, there's one Zumba step, which I'm also trained in, licensed to, sorry, where they use a step and you do the moves around the step. They come out with Strong Nation, which is a more high intensity interval training um, workout, which I've also been licensed in. I can't do the whole 1 hour of hits, but I do 30 minutes classes of it. So there's different things within that company, within that branch, that you could do if the dance fitness is not for you. But it really the whole idea of Zumba and what they stand for really did help me change up. It really made me have a drive for fitness in a different way. Even though like sometimes I used to feel like people would look at me and be like, "You're a Zumba instructor. You like struggle with your weight. You have like you have a belly. You don't have a belly. Like things like that." But now that is it doesn't bother me the way it used to because I know when you come to my class that you're going to have fun, you're going to get a workout, and you're going to feel better at the end of it. So it really, and it opened up my, I said, my appetite for just fitness in general. So for many years, I was much better at exercising than eating right. um, but it was still something. So yeah, I could go on and on about Zumba, but I'll stop
It
there.
sounds really fun. It sounds really, really fun. I think one of these days I would take a class. I have taken classes before, it was years ago. And as you said, I was frustrated with the coordination because I was like, oh my gosh, what? Spin dance, stop. I was like, oh, what? Okay, okay, stop. So, but I will try again. What I want to find out though is, you said a lot of things, your self-esteem was on the lowest, but what have you done? How did you manage to come out of that very low place in terms of where you were beating down on yourself and you didn't see yourself as the strong woman who you are today? So
Hmm.
how did you actually come out of that? It was a Zumba alone that made you do that, or the other things that contributed to that.
It wasn't Zumba alone, though that was a great tool to have to help with it. Um, but it really started with my daughter, if I'm completely honest, because I just realized that I started becoming more aware of the things that I would have learned, or the experiences that I had that shaped how I thought about myself. I would see, for instance, I struggle with anxiety. Like it's taken me a lot to get to a place where I'm able to manage it. And when I started reflecting on some things that my mom would do, and then what my grandma would do, I realized that this is something that I learned. So while there is a link to PCOS, anxiety and depression, these things, they are also learned behaviors that you can have over your lifetime, based on different things. It can be more depending on your family dynamic, or even things in school, or your career, and these things, like you feel like you always have to prove yourself, or you have to be perfect, or you have to get external validation from others. And that's how I was, because I was good in terms of academics and stuff. So if I wasn't doing well and stuff, that would affect me, and I would have anxiety and these things. So when I had my daughter, I realized that she's going to learn this from me. She's going to learn all this negative behavior from me if I don't figure out how to fix this. And maybe fix it is not the term, but how to be able to manage it a bit better, right? And that really catalyzed everything for me, um, because I first was just trying to figure out how to spend more time with her, because um, I just wanted to be there to be able to take care of her. Well, that's a whole other conversation in terms of like, a working mom and wanting to be with your daughter but having to go back to work and thing. That's a whole other thing. So that's how it really started. And I came across different things. I started doing a lot more self development courses. I came across something called the Woman's School, which had a specific course at the time called The Art of Being a Woman, which went into things that I never thought about in my life, like how these things shaped how I see the world, my perspective, how to manage my emotions, how to be able to not let motherhood kill your dreams, like different things that we don't learn in school, um, about being not just a woman, but I guess just surviving on this earth, like those specific kind of practical things that
Models
you need, like
teach
how
you a
to
lot.
build your self-image. Yeah, like if you have a poor self-image, how do you even start to change that? Like you can't just pull it out. You have to start doing specific things to start rewiring those patterns in your mind, because what happens, it becomes a pattern. If it is, I'm seeing myself for years and years, and at that point in time I would have been, what, 30 years, 31 when I actually had my daughter, of me seeing myself in this way and seeing myself as unworthy. Like I couldn't change that overnight, but first I had to be aware. It's like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. How do I take steps to start changing that? And it really was finding things to say to myself to start changing those patterns that I had, to really break those things. And it was so many different things. I mean, so like one thing that I really remember was writing down some, well, we called it positive scripts, power scripts, but people would probably call it affirmations or different things about the things that I wanted in my life, in the different parts of my life, my family life, my self image, my friendships, how I wanted to contribute in the world. I wrote down all those things, and I recorded myself saying it to myself, um, and I would listen to it on my drive to work every day. And at first it felt silly. I was like, what am I really doing? But I started to realize, like, over time, it was sinking in. Like I started taking action on things I would never take action on before. I started believing certain things. My mindset started changing, and then I had, specific. I continued doing a lot more self awareness things, looking back at what shaped me, and why I was the way I was, and if it is something that I needed to change, and what were the steps that I would need to do to change. And also, while looking at the where I wanted to be, also kind of embracing where I was at the same time. Um, so that really started helping me change those things. Once I became a little bit more self-aware of it, and give myself a little bit more compassion and grace, it really helped me to move forward. And of course, you have to have that something motivating you, like what it is that you want. If it is, you want to be this confident person, or you want um, to have this specific dream, or you have a daughter, or you have a child, or somebody who you influence, and you want to be able to be that example to them. You have to have that little motivating thing, um, to help you want to do this thing, help to make these changes, and know that you're human and these things happen, and we're not alone in this. So many people I talk to now is like they go through anxiety. People you never even think to. Nobody would look at me and think that I was dealing with anxiety and dealing with a poor self-image and all these things. They would have never known. Um, but yeah, people are going through it. So yeah, that's basically
Thank
kind of.
thank you so much for sharing that because I think it's very valuable to everyone who's listening, especially the fact that, couple of things, the fact that you're thinking that whatever you're going through, it's embarrassing or, but other somebody else is going through it and you are not alone in this journey and you can overcome it, but it takes some time and you have to have a motivating factor to do so.
Yeah,
I guess you actually want it, and I guess that was the radio, the recording thing, that was the purpose of it, actually showing that you actually wanted it, and then you start to
yeah,
believe it. I,
that's true.
PCOS is so terrible in terms of outside of the physical aspects of things, in terms of the weight gain and probably the hair in your face and all these other things that may come with even, but the mental side of PCOS, the thing that it causes can be so horrible. As in case this person who is trying to become a mother, but she cannot. The feeling of insignificance, the feeling of, okay, I cannot be a good wife because I cannot provide a child for my husband,
Mm.
or I'm not worthy of being a woman. Um, then I have all the other things in mood swings that people don't understand where you're coming from, and all these other things. So that what you just mentioned there, I think it can be so helpful for anybody who is going through any one of those things, or things that I didn't even mention, because there are so many other symptoms that people are experiencing. That I think the motivating factor and actually trying to
Mm.
being patient with yourself. What you said, you're human and you'll make mistakes. If
Mm-hmm.
you jump off the wagon, you will jump off the, you will come off the wagon, but you think, okay, I'm here to um have to jump back on. But I'm going back to the thing you said earlier, finding a tribe. When you fall off that wagon or jump off the wagon, that's the purpose of the tribe basically. To kind of help you get right back on. So finding that tribe is really, really beneficial. But the end goal is, or the end result is, there's a way that you can't fight it.
Yes.
Um, you have to put it in your mind that I can't fight it. This PCOS has nothing on me, and I could definitely fight
Mm.
this this journey so much.
Yeah,
So
that's
now
so
it's
true.
time.
And as you say, that's really that's so true because really I it really does come from your mind, and what I've been learning too is not just your mindset, because you can't will yourself all the time, but even like processing those emotions, because for many years I would just try to keep it down. It's like no, you have this and you're not dealing with it well, and you should be doing this better, and you should be handling this better, or not wanting to be vulnerable and share about it. And those things affect you too. Like
Yes,
it's so much better to just sit down and be like, if you need to have a cry session, if you just need to
right.
grieve the fact that your body just doesn't react the same way as somebody without PCOS, have just sit and have that moment and just let it out. Because if you hold it in, that kind of is stored in your body, and that kind of has that a kind of trauma effect on you, or it might become a pattern in itself and trigger certain symptoms and those things. So process it, give yourself some time to process it, and then tell yourself it's like, okay, no, okay, I've done this, and now this is what I'm going to do to move forward. So I just wanted to add that.
But I want to even add further in terms of, well, not even add, but to emphasize what you said. Don't dismiss the emotion,
Mm.
because I think we're both are that way. Probably kids of today are going to be different because we are
Yes.
learning better. We are learning, so now we're encouraging them to feel what they're feeling. But in
Yes.
our era, I don't think we are allowed to express ourselves or even feel
Not.
emotions too much, and that in itself, as you rightly said, kind of create problems within our mind, and then we felt judged. We're too strong to cry and all these other things. So feeling the
Yeah.
emotion, feeling the emotion, but you say, okay, now how am I going to deal with it? I love that. I actually love that piece of advice there. We are at the question and answer segment. So if anybody is in the crowd and has a question, they are free to ask their questions right now. But other than that, all of these shows are broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube. I did ask people to register, one, to get the direct link if they needed it, or to put forward questions that they are not comfortable asking in public, because they want people to know that they answered. And we do have three questions that were sent. So I'm just going to share it now. And the first one is, how do you motivate yourself to keep fighting?
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question. Like, it's so many things. It changes day by day. If I'm honest with you, some days I don't feel any motivation at all. I just feel like okay, but like I was saying, is like give yourself that time. Like I think we beat ourselves up when we're feeling that way, and as Melissa was sharing, is like I guess because we kind of grew up that way. It's like we need you need to always be strong or you need to always push through and do things. And that's all well and good. There are times where that is valid and you do need to push through if it is something is holding you back. But we do need those days where if you just want to lie in bed and watch a whole season of a Netflix special, which I am very guilty of, um, do it. If you need to have that piece of chocolate, like I cut out sodas, but I still used to have a piece of dark chocolate, every night. Um, don't overdo. But
Yeah.
do whatever it is you need to do for self care. I mean, don't be afraid to take those times. I mean, if you have children, it's a little harder sometimes. But if you need to ask for the support, and Melissa for years, like even during these last 4 years when my daughter was born, I realized how hard it is for me to just ask for help, to ask for support. It's like it's fine.
They must not somebody back. It's a day as a I'm like I said this doesn't come easy, to go and ask for help or support. You just feel kind
Feel like
of
it's a burden or something like that. While there's sometimes there are people in your life who just waiting for you to help because you can't be the strong person all the time, and they're like waiting. It's like I want to help this person, and you're not giving them the opportunity to. And those little things that have been so taboo for years, we need to kind of like forget forget about those things and do the things that we need to do to be to for our self care and for our mental health. And that kind of is what kind of helps motivate you because when you and certain things we shared before, just realizing that you're human and you're not going to be 100% all the time, somehow that just is like okay, today I was not so good. Tomorrow I'll
yeah.
probably call Melissa and say let's go for a little walk around the savannah or something like that. And those little things, knowing that you don't have to be perfect and you're still worthy of things. You're still worthy of feeling good. You're still worthy of having time for yourself, taking care of yourself. And those little things really would help motivate you, to help keep you fighting. And talking to people, invest in yourself if you need to, because as I was sharing, I started doing those self-development courses. I invested in a coach myself. While it wasn't specifically for PCOS, it was just for like in general for my to figure out my purpose and my contribution. Like those things help me so much. And I realize that that's another thing that's pretty taboo in our culture. If you're not spending money on the traditional things like school, which is good. But I mean, like if you're spending money on things like therapy or these
Mental
self help
health.
things, like that's why you're wasting your money. But those things are important as well. So don't be afraid to invest in yourself for those things that help you holistically.
You are speaking in terms of you mentioned so many great nuggets there in terms of the last one was don't be afraid to invest in yourself because and you're right, I've never really considered, but you said it's taboo and that is so true because if it is you tell somebody you are I'm doing a course and it's not a master's or something related to tertiary education or professional career, they usually like, what? You could go and watch some YouTube videos and get some knowledge on that. Why are you spending so much money on this? And I mean, say you have to make a judgment call for you. If you think that is suitable for you and your development, by all means, go and do it. But keep it to yourself. If you don't have to support you, just say, don't even share it. But that is helpful. And the other thing you shared in terms of, yes, being a mother, especially being a mom, working and probably having young kids, it's going to be harder for you to um, have a self-care routine, but be as practical about it as you can be. If you have to lock yourself in that car, drive around the corner and lock yourself in that car for a few minutes and music blazing, you're eating a cup of ice cream because you don't want to share it with the children, that, that is fine. But find your what you can do within the limits of what you have at that point in time, and don't beat up on yourself. And something else you share with regards to you speaking about a piece of chocolate in terms of I guess moderation or something like that. If you know your weakness is Black Forest cake, let's just say that your weakness is a Black Forest cake,
Yes.
don't buy the whole black forest cake and bring it home because you will eat all the entire black forest cake. We'll probably have the black forest cake at the restaurant. You eat it, you have you enjoy it to its fullest, and then you come home and you live
Yes.
the next day. You have a saying, Yashi. I remember when I first met you, you told me something to do with happiness, live your best life, something. What is your saying? You have a saying.
Oh, I
Something about
do.
live your
I don't remember now. You mean, I wonder what thing.
It's
You
something
mean
to do
like
with living your best life, full life, happiness. Something to do
girl?
with living your best life, a full life. Or like,
I changes so much, but it basically like living you're living your best life despite your diagnosis. You know, you are not your diagnosis. I don't know if that's what you want, but that's one of them. That you're not your diagnosis. You know, and that's something that for a long time I think I just considered Yashi equals PCOS. Like that was just me. I was PCOS walking around in a bubble to the point where like when I did some interviews last year, people were pointing out to me that I kept saying my PCOS, my PCOS. Like I was really claiming this thing, right? And even though I am not about because PCOS is something that they don't have a cure for, unfortunately. You are able to manage the symptoms, but it still will always be there. But I also believe in speaking your truth, not letting this thing overpower your life, and knowing that you can still live your best life despite this diagnosis. Because when I guess Melissa and I told you, it's like when we got that diagnosis, that was feeling like this is this death sentence. This is something that I'm going to struggle with for my life. I'm not going to have children. I'm not going to have a good relationship or whatever it is that you started thinking when you get that diagnosis. But the truth is that you can, while it's going to be challenging, I don't want to discount, there will be
mhm.
challenging times, you can still live a whole life. You could still feel like Melissa. You could still feel like Yashi, but you have PCOS and it's a challenge. But it's not your end all and be all because, like as I shared, I was a little bit conscious about being a Zumba instructor and teaching classes because this is somebody in front of you here who is teaching a fitness class, but is struggling. You know that they're struggling with their weight and these things. But on the flip side, there were students who needed that. They needed to see somebody who's like, hey, okay, this
Being
person, I could do this class. So and there's so many things like I started dreaming again. I realized that this diagnosis made me think that I couldn't do certain things. I wasn't allowed to do certain things. I was unworthy of doing certain things. And that's really, really not true. And once you realize that things can change for you, you start to be able to find the people that you need to find, the resources you need to find, and just that inner thing. One of the sayings that I have, which I don't think is what you're referring to, but I try to put a spin on what PCOS meant for me, and instead of it being just polycystic ovarian syndrome, I said it is putting care, confidence, and compassion on self because that's what it kind of made me realize that I needed to do. I needed to find a way to be compassionate for myself. I needed to find ways to take care of myself, and I needed to find ways to build my confidence because that was how I would be able to deal with something like this. So
I love
that's one
that.
of
I'm writing it down.
I love sayings. I love acronyms. I'm always trying to think of like how can I put this in a way because that's what helps me. You know, those having those things to say to yourself. It's like, hey, what? You're not your diagnosis, Yashi. Like in the moments because you are going to have those moments where it's really going to feel like it's beating you down. But but we can do this. We are warriors, as
Yep.
you
We're
see here.
definitely
We're there.
we yeah, yeah, it's
There.
it is it is there. It is there. We're definitely warriors, and you too can become a warrior. Um, you know, people to support you. We have another question here in terms of how do you feel about natural remedies? I think you touched on that, throughout our conversation. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
how do you feel?
I love natural remedies. But I had to kind of I started to get a little bit too much against medication, which I realize has its place. You know, like you really have to look at your lifestyle. you have to look at supplements, natural supplements, and also if you need to take medication, then you can. You need to know what's going on with you, right? But for my own journey, I really try my best to figure out how to do this naturally. Um, and with different challenges because the first time I tried to come off of birth control would have been around 2014. I can't do the maths right now to know how long I was on it by that time. But the first time I tried to come off of birth control, um, we had a false positive pregnancy test. I thought I was pregnant, um, but it apparently was just like a flare up of PCOS, and somehow the pregnancy test said that I was pregnant and I was not. And I had to go back on birth control to kind of get things back into gear. But at that point in time, I was like really determined to figure out like how can I come off of this thing and see my period, and feel like I'm managing. Well, at that time, I didn't think about other symptoms. I was like, okay, I need to have my period regularly. Let's start with that. And it took a different things. It took, looking at cutting out certain things, or I should say cutting back on it. I shouldn't say cutting out. And managing my stress levels was major for me. Um, and then just finding things that I enjoyed doing in terms of fitness and stuff. So Zumba and stuff helped with that. But I since then I've been always just trying to find natural remedies. So like inositol is something that they said is on par with metformin. So I try to use that to see how that affects it. Um, and there's so many other things I've seen more natural, like the spearmint tea, using zinc, using magnesium, anything else that's more a little bit more natural. I tend to try to I gravitate to that more besides the pills. But if you need to
Yeah,
take it, I understand,
yeah, no
but I can't.
judgment, guys. No
Yes.
judgment at all. But I think the moral is um, just be receptive and understand in terms of there are different things for different reasons and see which one works best for you. Meaning do it for you and not because you're being, I guess, forced to do it, to take a particular treatment. Choose the one that is suitable to you. We have one final question here that was submitted and it was, how do I feel comfortable in my skin, my new chubby body?
Well, I have loads of experience with this. I was not comfortable for many, many years. Even, but it's funny now because, well, even when I was at my slimmest, I used to think I was. I used to think I was chubby. It blows
Wow.
my mind. But it blows my mind when I look at the picture of me when I was that size, and to think I was still thinking that. So it really is about working on your mindset really, and kind of just showing it more a little bit. Like I have been I've been trying to be a little bit more
Bold?
not
Bold. More
yeah,
bold. You know,
maybe bold as you will. Like buying that swimsuit that makes you feel good, finding clothes that you feel comfortable with. Because I realized like I spend a lot of time trying to fit into clothes, and it's really the other way around. Your clothes are supposed to fit you, so buy things that fit you and you feel comfortable in, and accept compliments, even if it's hard at first.
oh my God, that's a
don't
big one.
don't yeah, don't be like it's just like you look so great today. It's like, oh really, like like I used to do that a lot, even to my husband, when he would tell me certain things like, hey, you're looking really like nice today or sexy today or whatever. I would like be like, no,
Just,
what are you? And that does not serve you. Even if you're feeling that in the moment in your mind, just accept it. And eventually, like you kind of start to appreciate yourself. Stand up in front of the mirror and look at the things that you like about your body. You may not like your middle or something, but maybe you have really nice thighs. And I started to do that. It's like, okay, I appreciate your legs. You're taking me places to help me do Zumba. Appreciate the things about yourself. Um, that take the time to do it, in those self-care moments. Take the time to really appreciate what you love about yourself. And you could have things that you're working on. There's nothing wrong with that. You could always be working on, have a goal in mind, but but really embrace the body that you're in, because our bodies are like so amazing. I mean, PCOS, yeah, it has its symptoms that we don't like. But when I think about it as like, you know, they, your legs take you places, your eyes helping you to see the beauty of this world. Like when you really change that perspective, it kind of helps you. And be bold, put yourself out there.
Agreed.
Buy the dress that you like,
Agreed. It's going to be a
shopping.
challenge. It's going to be a challenge the first couple of times, but when you do it, like when you do it the first time and you start to do it more effectively, you recognize like, "But look at you now." And sometimes these things that we are hard on ourselves about in terms of our body, the most self-critical person, people like, what are you talking about? I'm not even seeing that what you are actually referring to. So
It's true.
it is in all of us. So we need to love who we are. Yeah, we are at the end of the show, and I want to thank you so much. But before you leave, I definitely want you to share with the audience in terms of how can someone contact you, because you gave so many inspirational, you shared so many inspirational messages, and I know in terms of ways to manage when you're not feeling your best and you may have a negative mindset and stuff. So, and this was just in a very general forum. So I could just imagine when you get to know the individual, the type of advice and stuff that you can help them with. So if someone wants to actually work with you, um, how do they get in touch with you? What is the program like? You're free to take the floor and share what you want to share with the audience in terms of your PCOS positively coach um, service, and also definitely tell us how we can do a Zumba class also.
Thank you so much, Melissa. So basically, I talked about coaching a lot, and that really motivated me to become a coach, because I realized that I have a lot of the same passions and skill sets. And I also did extra training in that as well, because I do feel like sometimes in these type of journeys, you need like a cheerleader. You need somebody walking with you who understands what you're going through, and who can hold your hand through certain things. And I really wanted to be a source of that support that I wish I had when I was diagnosed. So there are a couple of things. Right now, I working with patients on a one-on-one basis. So if you want to find out a little bit more, you can email me at connect@mindofyash.com. You can also visit my IG page, and there's in the link you can subscribe to my newsletter, which is where I would share any inspiration, any resources, um, with regard to PCOS. I am currently trying to work on a membership that hopefully would start early next year, which would be a monthly thing. You could opt in, opt out if you need to. That would have specific things in terms of coaching, in terms of PCOS resources, and also, of course, my Zumba classes. So I'm working on that. But once you join my email list, I will keep you updated on everything. I have a few things happening now. I still have my summit material from last year available if anybody wants to purchase it as well. All the recordings, you get unlimited access to it. Um, so you can contact me and I can let you know how to get onto that. And also, I'm an affiliate for a course called PCOS Lifestyle and Nutrition Blueprints, which is something that I found last year from a registered dietitian, Martha McKittrick. She has this course that just has everything you need to know about PCOS, and she has bonuses in terms of like what labs you could ask your doctors to do to confirm certain things, like quick meals you can make in 15 minutes, um, that can help PCOS. And she's really compassionate and understanding about of all the challenges. So if you want to also know like how you can get that into that course, because the doors open on the 28th of October, with that, you can also email me and let me know. But right now, I'm working with patients just until the end of the year on a one-on-one basis. So you can contact me and we could talk about how to set up sessions.
Sounds really good, and then that course in terms of blood work, that blood work thing is a serious thing, and people um, omit that from their diagnosis. Not much doctors, not many doctors send you on blood work. They just do the ultrasound and bam, they
Yeah.
diagnose without anything else. So
Right.
you actually having knowledge to tell the doctor, well, can we look into this? It's a way of where you empowering yourself. So that's something really,
Definitely.
really good. Really,
Yes.
really good. Actually, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out and actually sharing your story with us. It was very enlightening and it was real. And I like that you were, I would say, vulnerable with us. That you shared your true story in terms of the experiences and stuff. And I think that, but for me, it was a source of motivation, and I hope that it did motivate and inspire somebody else out there because we all know that you and I both know that there are people walking around who doesn't look the part. They
Yeah.
don't look the part at all, and they have on this mask on their face that they're trying to fight it within. Um, so just know that there are other people who are here cheering you on, and you can fight and win this battle. So I want to thank you for being part of the project. Today is the last show.
No.
This is my first time
The
doing
party.
this. Yeah, after party. Yes, after party. This is my first time actually hosting a show like this, and it feels very, very rewarding to do so in terms of helping other women. So I thank you
I
again.
love it. I want to thank you, Melissa, for doing this. I'm so impressed with this. I remember when I started with my own series in September 2020 and using diaper boxes. And the setup was, but it's so important just to get yourself out there. And this production was so great, and I'm really happy that you're doing this to bring more awareness because that really is where the power you get the power back. You're sharing and helping persons and motivating them. So kudos to you for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Great. I
Thank
really had fun talking to you.
It was, and definitely keep me posted, and we will be in touch because I think together, even so, if I could help continue spread awareness on your behalf or anything, there's no problem with it. So
Absolutely. You're
thank
part
you.
of my tribe now. So
Yes, I welcome it. So thank you so much, Yashi. We will be in touch.
bye.
Bye bye. Bye. Let me just stop this here. So, guys, today brings the end of our Herb Warrior program. Today is show 6 of 6, and I want to thank like everyone who supported me on this initiative in terms of my family, my friends, my colleagues, my son, big supporter here. And the presenters, all the presenters from the 1st of September till now, we had Jessica James with Heal the Fit and Well Way, Dr. Shavon Joseph, the first step to healing and self-awareness. We had Nicholas Volter who spoke about hormones and our mental capacity to understand your hormones and embracing you. Nico Thomas who spoke about feeling good inside, looking good outside. Jeremy Wilson, who spoke about eating your way to health, and today, Yashi Carrington, who spoke about her true story. I am her woman, true woman. Without these people, the show would not have been a success, and I'm very, very grateful that you took the time out and they contributed to actually helping me spread awareness about PCOS and helping me uplift you because on the other side of the screen to fight your battle. We've heard so many stories and we know that the struggle is real. I know the struggle is real. But I want to encourage you to continue fighting this journey and claim victory over PCOS. I am your host, Melissa Cobham, and yeah, she said I need to go and do an after party. Probably over the weekend. Not now, time to sleep for work in the morning. Work in the morning. But it has been a pleasure. You, my wonderful viewing audience, who were here from day one to the end of the show. Thank you so much. And if you can spread it, it's going to be on YouTube and on Facebook. I don't know, probably indefinitely. But if there's somebody who you know who is struggling, be sure to guide them to the video and definitely guide them to Yashi's website where she can provide that coaching that person needs to help them pull through. You may not be that person. Your role in this might be just to guide them to the source of help and not necessarily to um, have a conversation or anything of the sort. So again, it has truly been a pleasure. I want to thank you for tuning in. But let me put on some outside music now. Let's go.